Hello everyone, welcome to today's tutorial. In this video, we'll be stitching the Maxi dress we cut out last time. So the first thing I want to do here is to shape the dart. You can choose to hold the dart the normal way or use this method that I'll be showing us. So we're going to measure the same dart intake on the side. Here I'm measuring 1.5 of the same dart intake I measured last time when we were cutting this dress, and then I'm going to rule the line to the armpit area. So we're going to cut that part out. This will give us the same result as when we hold the dart the normal way, and we'll be doing this for the front, the back bodies, and also the lining. So because I have some fabric left, I'm going to cut out the upper part of this lining and replace it with the main fabric. So I'm taking 7 inches up. And then I'm going to rule that part. So next we cut out. Now I'll be adding 1 inch seam allowance to join the pieces together, 1/2 inch on each side. So here are the pieces. We'll do the same thing for the back bodice as well of the lining. So next we iron interface to the lining as seen. So this is the main fabric. Now we're going to turn the lining with the main fabric. So we match the neck of the lining and the main fabric together and pin. We're going to do the same thing also to the armhole. We're going to pin it as well. So we'll be stitching this with 1/2 inch seam allowance, both the neck and the armhole area. The same thing also to the other side of the crossover. Now after stitching, here is how it's looking. It's already pressed. First we notch the curved part of both the neck and the armhole area. So next we turn to the right side. And then the next thing to do is to give it a press as well. Now we shape the upper part, both the waist and the bust area. Place it correctly like this and then measure. So this is 23 inches. Put that down in the calculator. Measure the back bodies as well, and this is 22 inches. Now the bust circumference is 40, so 22 plus 23 gives 45. 45 minus 40 gives 5 inches. It means we're going to remove 5 inches from the bust circumference. So we're going to shape the bust circumference by 1.2 inches. This is because we have 4 sides. So 5 divided by 4 gives 1 1/4. That is 1.25 inches. So that's, I'm marking out the same 1.25 inches. Next we measure the waist. This is 20 inches. So put that down on the calculator. And then measure the back bodice also. And this, I held the zip with 1 inch allowance. So this is 19 inches. 19 plus 20 gives 39 inches. The waist circumference is 35. So 39 minus 35 gives 4 inches. So this means we're going to remove 1 inch from each side of the waist. So I'm marking out 1 inch as seen. This is because we have 4 sides. So there are several ways to stitch this together. We could just place the front bodice on the back bodice, right side facing right side, not this way though, I'm just showing us, then stitch this way, stitch the other side as well. Or we use this method that I'll be showing us, though a bit tricky, but your work comes out neat. So we're going to match the armpit area. And we pin. Now this is one side of the crossover, both front and the back pieces. So we're going to also pin the other side. So when stitching, we're going to leave a space where we're going to fix the crossover. Now here is how it's looking after stitching and the space we left. So I also gave it a trim so the outer part won't be bulky. Now this one, it's not trimmed, and can you see how bulky it is? So now here's how we're going to trim it. We're just going to cut a bit from the armpit area. Watch the seam while cutting. Now can you see? So next we're going to fix the crossover of both the right and the left of the bodice. Now watch carefully how I'm going to do this. It can get a bit confusing. So we're going to place the one part of the crossover in between the lining and the main fabric, as you can see. So we'll stitch and then leave like 2 inches from below so we can pull the lining out. Can you see how it's looking? So we're going to fix the other side as well. Now this is the other crossover. We'll place it as seen. We're going to remove the lining in this other case. So now can you see? And then stitch all the way down. Now in this case, the crossover is between the main fabric alone. So we're going to stitch all the way down and then stitch the lining also all the way down. Now here, like I said earlier, we're going to leave 2 inches from that point. So this is how it's looking after stitching. So notice how I pull the lining out. So I'm going to stitch that separately. and then also stitch this other side separately. Now after stitching, this is how it's looking. The lining is separate and the main fabric also. So can you see where I pulled the lining out, I didn't stitch that part. I just skipped and then stitched the remaining part. So next we're going to fix our lower part. So we'll gather first the first and the second tier. Now here's the method I use in gathering my fabric. I actually use a zigzag stitch. Now first we mark out the zip allowance. You know, of course, you won't begin to gather from the edge, so you mark out the zip allowance and then try to stitch try to make 1 or 2 stitches. Okay, so now we pull out the thread because we want the bobbin thread at the top, so we bring up the bobbin thread. Now can you see the bobbin thread is on the top? We're going to use a zigzag stitch, the largest of course, and then we'll loosen the stitches as well. Now we're going to hold the threads together, and then the zigzag is going to be, the thread is going to be between the zigzag as we are stitching. So as we are stitching, we're pulling. I hope I'm making sense. So you stitch, you pull, you can see the gathers forming. Like I said, the zigzag should be, or the thread should be between the zigzag. Now if you stitch on the thread, you won't be able to pull it. So we're going to do this zigzag to the end. We're also going to leave 1 inch zip allowance. So now we're going to stitch this second tier on the first with 0.5 inch allowance. Just make sure you arrange it. So, and then we're going to also gather the first tier. Now this is done. We're going to remove the zigzag thread so it will be neat. So next we fix the upper part to the lower part of the main fabric. We're going to sew it with 1/2 inch allowance as we're sewing. We arrange it first before stitching actually. And then we'll do the same thing also to the lining. Now this is how it's looking after stitching both the main fabric and the lining. Also notice how clean the inside is. Next we fix the invisible zipper. Now if you have seen my tutorial on how to sew pencil dress, you know how to fix this invisible zipper. I actually left 1 inch at the neck for the zipper. Can you see? I left a space for it. So our zipper is fixed. So next we attach the lining to the main fabric around the zipper area. So we're going to sew the lining on the zip exactly and then stop where the zipper stopped on the main fabric. You place it as seen and stitch all the way to this zipper point. We'll do the same thing also to the other side. So now we are done stitching the lining to the main fabric on the zipper side. So I'm going to open and show you. I also did a hem stitch, as you can see. Now this is the inside. See how it's looking? Can you see how the lining is stitched on the line on the zipper? And then at that point where it stops, we stitch the lining separately, as you can see. So it's all done. And here is how the dress is looking. Thanks for watching.